Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our remote meeting of the Statutory Licensing Subcommittee. I'm Councillor Colin Carr, Chair of the Subcommittee, and I'm joined by Councillors Jan Blakey, Amanda Hopgood, Karen Little and Joyce Maitland. Please note this meeting is being recorded live to the Council's website and will be available to be viewed for a minimum of 6 months. I would like to give a warm welcome to any members of the public or media who are watching this live feed of the meeting. Before I commence with the formal business of the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping rules as follows, in order for the meeting to run as efficiently as possible. For those participating in the meeting, if you could please only speak when invited to speak by myself as chair. Keep your microphone on mute at all times unless invited to speak. Members, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function and that will indicate to me that you wish to speak. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position unless you have already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If I lose my connection, please note that Councillor Maitland will take over in my absence until the connection is restored. Now moving on to the agenda. Jill, do you have any apologies for absence?
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Item 2, substitutes. Jill, do you have any?
No substitute members, Chair.
Item 3 is declarations of interest. Does any member have any? Item 4 is the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of July. Could somebody please move them and second them?
Councillor Joyce Maitland, I'll move them.
Thanks, Joyce.
Councillor Amanda Hopgood, I'll second them.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Thank you. Moving on, I would like to welcome the parties to the hearing, who are Mr. Paul Lawson, the applicant, Ms. Tracy Martin, the objector, and since the report was circulated, members have received further representations to be taken into account from objectors Mr. and Mrs. Carroll, which have been circulated and read by members and circulated to all parties. Helen, when you do your presentation, I'd like you to go through all of that verbatim, please. I will invite the licensing officer to present their representations during the hearing. We are also joined by the licensing team leader, Helen Johnson, and the legal advisor to the subcommittee this morning is Catherine Hazel. Catherine, put your hand up.
Hello. Yes.
Thank you. Please note that all 5 members will sit during the hearing today, but only 3 will make the decision. I will now ask the legal advisor to advise and explain why we do this and to run through the procedure for the hearing. Thank you. Catherine.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So good morning, everyone. This is a statutory licensing hearing in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, which means that only 3 members are entitled to make the decision today. However, during the hearing, there's always the risk that conflicts of interest can arise and a member takes ill or loses connection to the hearing, which would then force them to retire. And if this were to happen, it would mean that today's hearing would have to be concluded due to being incorrect and the new hearing would have to be rearranged. Therefore, to ensure this does not happen, additional members are asked to participate so that they can stand in for any member that has to retire. Having had the benefit of taking part in today's hearing, the member will have all the information and understanding necessary to make the decision. With regards to the procedure, we'll firstly hear from the licensing team leader, Helen Johnson, who'll present her report to the subcommittee. Everybody will then have the opportunity to ask questions of her concerning any information that she's brought up in the report, and you'll be invited to do so by the chair. We'll then go on to the objector, and she'll then present her submissions, and each party will then have the opportunity to ask questions of her. And then we'll go on to the applicant, Mr. Lawson, who'll present his case to the subcommittee, and each party will then have the opportunity to ask questions of him. Following that, each party is given the opportunity to sum up and will be invited to do so by the chair. At the end of the summings up, the meeting will be concluded, and the members, or 3 of the members, will then go into a deliberations meeting to reach a decision. and then each party will be notified of the decision later on today by telephone call, and a formal notice of determination setting out the decision and the reasons for it will be sent in the post in a few days' time. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Catherine. Helen, can you present your report as licensing officer, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everybody. So this is the grant of a premises licence application, which is to be determined today for Concert Station Club and Institute Limited, 18 East Parade Concert, County Durham. The plan showing the location of the premises is attached at Appendix 2, which is at page 19. The application is attached as Appendix 3, pages 21 to 47. That was received on the 26th of February 2020 by Mr. Paul Lawson, who's the club secretary. You'll see at pages 40 to 41, it details the operating schedule, which is the promotion of the licensing objectives that the applicant proposes to put in place. The consultation period ended on the 25th of March. The club already holds a club premises certificate, which permits the supply of alcohol and the provision of regulated entertainment to the club's members and their guests from 11 AM until midnight. The premises licence application requests the supply of alcohol for consumption on the premises from 9 AM until 12:30 AM, the provision of regulated entertainment indoors from 10 AM until 12:30 AM, and the provision of late night refreshment indoors from 11 PM until 12:30 AM, with an additional hour for all activities as requested on New Year's Eve. You'll see Appendix 4, pages 49 to 53. Mr. Lawson provided some additional information in support of the club's application, which he also circulated to all the residents of East Parade in concert. During the consultation period, we received 7 objections from other persons. 2 of these were later withdrawn, and you'll see the remaining ones from the 5 objectors at Appendix 5, pages 55 to 60. I did note, Chair, that you mentioned the additional information from Mr. and Mrs. Carroll, which we received on the 9th of July 2020. Do you want me to go through that now, Chair, or do you want me to finish the report and then go through it?
I would prefer you to go through it, Helen. The reason being is we need to make sure that everything's covered. So if you can do that, please.
Yeah, I'll do that now. So the email we received says, it stated the 9th of July 2020 at 21:39 PM. I am replying on behalf of my wife, A. Carroll, and myself, T. Carroll. We have been retired now for 8 years and have no access to a computer or Wi-Fi, and we are not computer orientated. Therefore, we are not able to take part in the meeting. I would like to point out to the members of the hearing that these premises are located mid-terraced in a residential area with young families and children, pensioners, and a home that has special needs adults residing. As you will have seen by the photos supplied, cars parked on footpaths and down each side of the road. This could be a safety issue with devastating consequences. If the hours are extended, this would obviously increase the traffic and increase the risks. People are regularly on their phones, smoking and discarding cigarette ends. This is not minor, it carries a fine and is against the law. We also believe that with the proximity and the extended hours, there is every chance that young people passing on their way home have a possibility of causing antisocial behaviour. You may say, well, you bought a house near a public house, but at the time the licensing hours were very different. 10 PM closing on an evening and Sunday afternoon 12 till 2, not as proposed 9 in the morning till 12:30 AM the following morning, 7 days a week. Please, people will be exiting the premises near to 1 o'clock in the morning, and with being under the influence of drink, voices will be raised as they wish each other good night. I hope you can read this statement to the committee. Regards.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go back to me report if that's okay.
Yes, please. Fine, thank you.
So at point 9 of the report, during the consultation period, we received, you'll see at Appendix 6, pages 62 to 64, we received no comments from Durham County Council's Environmental Health Department, the Fire Safety Authority and the Durham Safeguarding Children Partnership. So the subcommittee is asked to determine the application with a view to promote the licensing objectives. The subcommittee is recommended to give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to the promotion of the licensing objectives. The representations, including any support and information presented by all parties. Durham County Council Statement of Licensing Policy, which you'll find the relevant parts attached as Appendix 7, pages 66 to 75. And also the Section 182 guidance of the Licensing Act 2003, the relevant parts again at Appendix 8, pages 77 to 82. The options available to members today are to grant the licence subject to the conditions that are consistent with the operating schedule accompanying the application and the mandatory conditions set out in the Act. Grant the licence subject to modified conditions to that of the operating schedule where the committee considers it appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and also the conditions, the mandatory conditions. To exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates to. To refuse to specify a person on the licence as the designated premises supervisor. Or lastly, to reject the application. Thank you, Chair, and I'll take any questions.
Thanks very much, Helen. Ms Martin, do you have any questions of the licensing officer, please?
I don't know. As you heard on the report that a couple of residents don't have internet access, so I'm mainly here just to observe and feed back to the residents.
Okay, and you have noted that we've read out Mr. and Mrs. Carroll's additional
Yes, I have
correspondence.
noted. Thanks.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Okay, Mr. Lawson, do you have any questions of the licensing officer? Mr. Lawson, do you have any questions of the licensing officer?
Sorry, I was still on mute. No, I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, do any members have any questions of the licensing officer? No? Helen, can I just confirm, because there seems to be some discrepancy in what Mr. Lawson supplied as additional information, is the licensing hours exactly what we are aware that they should be at present?
Chair, that's what they've applied for. I believe the club premises certificate that's already in place. Just bear with me because I've got it up here. The club premises certificate authorises the following hours. The opening hours, it states Monday to Sunday 11 AM until 12:30 AM. Indoor sporting events, Monday to Friday, 11 AM until midnight. Live music indoors and recorded music indoors, and also dancing is 11 AM until midnight, and the supply of alcohol on supplies only Monday to Sunday, 11 AM until midnight. So obviously the premises licence, which I explained before during the report, has been applied for supply of alcohol Sunday to Thursday, 10 AM until midnight, Friday to Saturday. Oh no, hold on, is that right? No, sorry, bear with us. 9 AM until 12:30 AM, and obviously the regulated entertainment 10 AM until 12:30 AM. So they do slightly differ. The premises licence is looking to extend the hours.
That's where I thought. That's what I needed to have clarified. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, fine. In that case, what we will now do is we'll move on to Mr. Lawson himself. Or Catherine, do you have any questions or clarifications?
No, I've not got any questions, Chair. Should we go on to the objector first?
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Right, Miss Martin, we'll come to you first. If you can present your case, please.
Yeah, the main concerns of the residents. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, that's fine, that's fine. I can see you as well.
Yeah, good. The main concerns of the residents was the extension of the licensing hours from serving alcohol at 9 on the morning. Would, you know, at 9 on the morning for alcohol, the type of people that it would attract is worrying.
Okay. Is there anything else you wish to add?
Not really. It's all been said. I'm really here to observe to feed back to the other residents.
Okay. For the situation of questions, then, Mr. Lawson, do you have any questions of Miss Martin? Or Ellen, do you want to go first, Ellen? Do you have any questions of Mrs. Martin? Of Miss Martin?
No, Chair.
Right, Mr. Lawson, do you have any questions of Miss Martin?
No, no questions.
Okay. Any questions from members, please? I think one of the things that we need to make clear, Miss Martin, is that the parking and things like that is more to do with the planning, etc., than it is with licensing. So if you can feed that back, I know there's always been problems in that street for many years with parking. So it's not going to be any different to what's already been there, I think.
Well, I'm at work during the day, so I only know what I'm told of other residents. It's mainly the 9 o'clock in the morning selling alcohol or things. It will attract more parking because at the minute we'll have people parking here when they're going to the doctors or going into concert. It's only for a matter of 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But if the club is open from 9 in the morning, the parking will be much worse.
Okay. So do you feel that you've had a fair hearing, Miss Martin?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
We can't say any more that we've put our points forward, and you know.
Well, that's important, and we're listening to them as well. That's the important.
Yeah, but the club's also got their own point of view, so
that's right. And you have observed that all of the members acknowledge that they've all read the papers. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, I think Councillor Maitland has a question.
Sorry, Joyce.
Yes, it's just it's mainly the 9 o'clock opening that you're concerned about. What about the 12:30 one? Is just you've got no concerns with that?
Yes, a couple of the other neighbours do have concerns with noise even later at night.
Thanks, Joyce. Does any other member have any questions? Oh, Catherine, do you have any?
Chair, sorry to interrupt. I think Mr. Lawson might have a question.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's not so much a question. It's just to sort of address the issue on the opening hours.
Well, you can do that in your presentation, Mr. Lawson.
Right, that's fine. Okay, no problem.
Okay, Catherine.
Yes, I've got no questions, Chair. Thank you. Does I thought Councillor Blakey had a question then, but she's taken the hand down.
Sorry, John, I didn't see it. Okay, in that case, Mr. Lawson.
Oh, shut the door. The phone started ringing. Can I talk about my application now? Can I hear?
Yes, you go through everything that you feel that the licensing committee need to hear.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can refer to pages. We've all got the pages.
Right,
so
right.
If we want to refer to separate elements, refer to the page number and we can all follow it.
Right, okay. Now, initially, this license application just came from a meeting I had with Michelle Williamson on a site visit she did to us one night. It was suggested to us that being as a club, and there's a lot of other clubs do it, they apply for a premises license to run alongside the club premises certificate. So it takes away sort of the restrictions of being a club to a degree. It was at that point that we were sort of suggested to that we could extend our hours, but we've got no intention of opening 9 o'clock in the morning till 12:30 every night. You can see from our existing premises certificates, we can open from 11 o'clock in the morning to midnight every night if we wanted to, but our opening hours don't do that because the custom's just not there. The reason we extended the opening hours was just to cover any one-off events we sometimes have at the club, where we don't want to have to sort of clot on applying for a one-off events license. We have quite a few trips from the club where we get picked up from the club early in the morning. We're talking just sort of for half an hour in the club before we leave on the bus. We have a lot of darts tournaments. We've had an influx last year of funerals, some of them very early in the morning, because there's a big backlog of funerals with the crematorium and stuff like that. So we just thought that by extending the hours, it would just cover everything that we do out of our normal opening hours. And like I stated in the letter, on page 50 of the report, I kind of addressed that issue with regards to the hours. It's not our intention to be open 9 o'clock in the morning until 12:30 every night at all. We've got no intention from moving away from our current opening hours. So I'd hope that addressed that in that letter that I issued to all the neighbours. But obviously I've got the opportunity to talk about it now, and I just want to stress that's not going to happen. The neighbours won't see any different to the opening of the club with regards to its opening hours at all. We've got no plans to extend them. Like I say, the only reason for the opening hours or the hours requested on the application was to cover one-off events. Okay.
Okay. So is there anything else you wish to say?
No, that's it. I mean, I just want to address the neighbours' concerns, you know. I mean, when I first submitted the application, I just thought it would be a paperwork exercise. I didn't think we'll have any objections because, like I say, we've got no intention of doing what the neighbours seem to think we're going to do. It's not the case. We're not going to be a Witherspoons. We're not going to be open 9 in the morning till 12:30 every night. It'll only be for odd events, maybe one a month, if that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that your presentation completed?
Yeah. I mean, I hope I've addressed everything in the letter that I issued to the neighbours. I mean, like I say, the main reason for our application was a financial reason. It was to enable us to become a private members club as opposed to a CIU affiliated club. That takes us out of having to sort of abide by their rules, their subscription fees. We've got a long history of disagreement with the CIU, which I'll not get into now. That is the main reason for it, really. I mean, and, you know, clubs are struggling, times are hard. We just want to try and make it easier so we can sort of cut every corner with regards to finance, you know, tighten our belts. And that was the main reason for the premises license. And like I say, I initially thought it would just be a paperwork exercise. I didn't think it would come to this. But
Okay.
okay.
Right. What I will say to everyone is there'll be an item at the end of this that everyone can sum up. That includes Helen, you, Miss Martin, and you, Mr. Lawson. You can all sum up individually. Okay, it's not a situation of presenting additional evidence. It's a situation of just summing up on what's already being presented. Okay. Helen, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Chair, if I may. Mr. Lawson, is the intention, if the premises licence is granted, that you'll be surrendering the club, or would you just have them running alongside each other?
No, it was always the intention to have the two certificates running alongside each other. Like I say, we don't want to move away from being a club. That's what it's all about, the club. But we just want to have the two licences in place.
Okay, and just for clarification, Chair, it was PCSO Michelle Williamson who's now left. It was for Durham Constabulary. She worked in the harm reduction unit.
Yes.
Just for clarification, I think just going off what Mr. Lawson, the clubs do find themselves where obviously they're only restricted to members and guests. And like what Mr. Lawson said, is if there was going to be any events where there were general members of the public attending, they would have to put a temporary event notice in. We have advised clubs in the past that they may want to get a premises licence to cover them, where they may have members of the public attending functions at the club, so it just covers them in that respect and they're not doing anything against the law.
No, that's fine. I was aware of that. As long as other members were fully aware of that as well. Fine, thanks for that clarification, Helen. Miss Martin, do you have anything to ask Mr. Lawson?
Yes, I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I must admit, I didn't even notice you were applying for anything till one of my neighbours told us. The letters that you sent to the residents fully explained everything. I'm thinking maybe if they were sent before this all happened, people would have understood. But the concern, as well as if this licence is granted, and I know you've got no intention of changing what you're doing, but say a year or 2 years time, you might want to change that, and you've got every right to open from 9 o'clock, and then we won't have any say, or we won't be able to object then because it'll already have gone through.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a possibility, yeah. And I've thought along them lines as well, but I mean, all I can say is what our plans are for the time being. And like in that letter I submitted on page 50 of the report, you can see over the last 9 years we've reduced our opening hours by 9 hours. We've got the business isn't there, you know. If anything, yeah. I'm looking to reduce it again. I mean, at the moment, you know, following on from the lockdown, we're only open Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the moment, and I like it. You know, the only reason that we'd sort of reopen again at this point is when the darts and the pool leagues start up again. But being the club we are and the type of people that come to our club, we don't want to be, you know, the 9 o'clock opening where they're queuing outside to get a drink. That's never going to happen, not as long as I'm here anyway. And that's all I can say. I can't speak for what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
See, that's the trouble. No one can say what's going to happen in the future. And it is a nice club, and it is, you know, no problem. Mm-hmm. It's just what would happen in the future if it was granted and you or anyone that took over or someone did decide to start opening at 9 in the morning. The residents, it would be, well, that was past years ago, tough. Mm-hmm. That's our you know, I'm sure you can understand our concern from that.
I understand that, but I mean, like us and most clubs, you know, just the business isn't there for that, and I don't think it ever is going to be now. Not when you've got the likes of Witherspoons in the town centre, you know what I mean? We just want to be open our minimum hours for our members, and that's it. And I like I say, I can't speak for 10, 15 years down the line. If I'm here, I can, but you know, I might not be the secretary in 10 or 15 years' time. I've got every plan to be, you know. I live here, but I can only speak for like now. I can't speak for the future.
Nobody can speak for the future, can they?
Yeah. Imagine if something like that happened and there was problems, that could be addressed then, you know. But all I can speak for is now, and as long as I'm at the club, that'll never happen.
Yeah, Joyce, you have a question, and Helen, you've got a question.
Yes, you're saying like you want the 9 o'clock license because sometimes you have trips away and things like that. Won't leave at like 9:30. So when the trips have gone, will you close it then till 11 o'clock, or will it just stay open?
Yeah, I mean, most of the trips, and we were supposed to be on one yesterday at the Rector, which didn't happen. Normally, it just consists of the 40 or 50 members who are going on the trip. They'll come in the bar at 9 o'clock. The bus is picking us up at 9:30. They'll just want a drink. They'll want a pint before they get on the bus. And then once the bus picks us up and takes us to Rector, we'll be gone for the rest of the day. The club will not be open. It'll just be the normal opening hours, because normally the return trip is around about 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Helen?
Thank you, Chair. It wasn't a question. It was just to address the concerns that Miss Martin may have for down the line if the club was to change hands. Miss Martin, there is always an opportunity if there are any issues where there's any noise breakouts or anything like that, that the licensing authority can work with yourselves and also whoever's running the club at the time to do some kind of mediation. There's also as well the chance that there's always the possibility that a review of the licence can come into question. Anybody can put a review in, and again, it will go through the same process and end up at a licensing committee like this, where it determines what happens with that licence. So although I know what you're saying, that it could open if it was granted today at 9 o'clock, if it causes issues and where there was any potential breach in the licensing objectives, there can always be a review brought on that licence by anybody. That could be yourself, residents, a responsible authority, including ourselves as well.
Okay, so if it, say, hopefully not, but if it changed hands in a couple of years' time and someone decided to open 9 in the morning, selling alcohol, showing films, playing live music, someone could object and it would go back through the committee, would it?
Not object. If it became a nuisance and it was causing issues where there was any potential breaches in the licensing objectives, then anybody, including yourself, could put a review application in to review that licence, and then it would be brought in front of members of the committee to be heard, and they would determine what to do with it.
And what grounds can you ask for review?
That's what I was going to explain.
The licensing objectives.
It's purely the licensing objectives. Helen, can you just explain that for us, please?
So the licensing objectives: prevention of crime disorder, the prevention of public nuisance. So again, if there was any noise breakout, anything, what we would recommend is that you do report that to the environmental health if you experience anything like that, because any evidence would back up the review application. The other ones are public safety and the protection of children from harm.
The only thing that I would add is it would have to be diaried, so that each event was diaried, time and date. So that would have to be there in order to come back to a licensing committee asking for a review, because they would need that information. Am I correct, Helen? Or is anything else?
Yeah. Like I said, any evidence supporting that review was extremely important. Yeah.
Okay, Amanda and then Jan.
Yeah, got a question from Mr. Lawson, because the objections seem to be around the sale of alcohol rather than as a pickup point. So would you be amenable to changing the time that you start selling alcohol to bring that in line with what you do now, which is 11 o'clock as opposed to 9 o'clock? Because what you're saying is you want the place open so that if you've got trips or you've got a funeral or something, that you can use it and you don't have to apply. But do you need to sell alcohol between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. or is that something that you would be prepared to move on?
I mean, like the example I gave before for the race trip, the old fellas who go on the race trip, they like to drink before they get on the bus to go down there. So if we went back to the 11 o'clock hours, we wouldn't be able to do that. And also we've had some very, very early funeral wakes in as well, which were sort of 10 o'clock. That would mean we couldn't do that as well. And obviously a funeral wake, people want to have a drink. It's a compromise, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be if that was the breaking decision to keep the hours 11 o'clock, then I'd be fine with that. But I would prefer to sort of have the 9 so that any other events we'll have we're covered, you know.
Just before John comes in, on that same thing, why can't you apply for a TENS on that individual occasion?
Why can't we?
Yeah.
Well, we could, but you know, it's sometimes funerals are at very short notice. It's just basically so we don't have to. It would just be an all-encompassing hours that covers everything. That's
Yeah.
what we were after, and that came from the discussion I had with Michelle.
Right. It's just on a TENS, the number of occasions that you're sounding that you need it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a TENS would probably satisfy that requirement, which is what residents are asking. What your residents are asking is not 9 o'clock. They're asking for it later, and all you could do is apply for a TENS on each of those occasions.
Right, a temporary event notice. Yeah.
Yes.
It's basically I just don't want to have to. You know, there could be a few of them. You know, if I forget to do it once or something like that. You know, that's all I'm thinking of. Whereas if we had the hours that were asked for, we wouldn't have to do that. Okay,
John, you have a question?
Yeah, it's along the safeguarding lines. How far away from the club premises is this special home?
It's close.
It is. It's
down or something.
It's at the bottom of the street. I think we're 18. It's 23 or 24. It's the very end house. It's been converted into. I think they've got special needs people in there with carers. That's. I mean, I've never had any sort of anything to do with them at all, really. I've seen them come in and out the property. That's about it.
Right. Thanks very much.
It is in the same street, not too far away, John.
Yeah.
I know you don't know the area, but it is in the same street. It's only about five houses away, I think, is it?
Yeah, it'd be something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Does anyone else have any questions of Mr. Lawson?
Yes, I've got a question, Chair.
Right, Catherine.
Yes, Mr. Lawson, it was just about the ending hours at midnight, because at the moment the club premises certificate is just till midnight to serve alcohol.
Yeah.
So you would be wanting the extra half hour?
Yeah.
Okay, and is that and why is that? Sorry.
That's again, it's just to cover everything. I mean, really, the only time we serve out of our normal open hours, which is last orders is 11 out at past, is New Year, really. Was to cover that.
Yeah. Catherine's asked exactly the same question as what I was going to ask you, and I need more clarification on that, because our licensing hours are normally what you see in the licensing procedure for ourselves, which we recommend for licensing premises to use, where you're going slightly beyond that, and you're saying that you're sticking to the same hours. You're not actually.
Well, just for that one-off event, we're not, but every other time we will be. I'm talking about our opening hours.
Right. The opening hours, though, that you've applied for are the end of drinking hours to serve till that time. Now,
Yeah, that was the advice. That was advice given by Michelle when I put the hours down. Yeah, just to tie them in, and I've actually got an email where she said to do that. So I mean, again, you know, if it was an issue, it could be just left the same. It's not a problem. But like I say, it was a suggestion from Michelle to do that.
I think that's what the members are actually asking, to consider leaving it the same. Mm-hmm. You can offer that now if you wish to before the committee retires.
Yeah, as long as the license shows, like the club, I think a club premises certificate does show that for that one-off event New Year we can sort of stay open until 12:30 or keep the bar open until 12:30.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It's just during the week. No, normally the hours are different from Monday to Thursday, mm-hmm. and we allow Friday to Saturday at 12:30 on most of them. That's why the members are asking their question. And
I mean, our current club premises certificate allows us to sell alcohol till 12 o'clock, but like I say, our opening hours dictate we don't. You know, it's only an extra half hour what we've already got.
Yeah. Catherine, sorry I interrupted you there.
No, that's fine. I haven't got any further questions. Thank you.
Okay. So everyone's asked every question for clarification. There's nothing more to ask. Everybody's happy. Right. First of all, before summing up, can I ask, does everyone feel that they've heard it in an open, reasoning way, and that the presenters are happy with what's being presented? I'll start with Helen.
Yeah, Chair, nothing from me.
Thank you, Miss Martin.
Yep, all fine. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Okay, now it's summing up, and summing up's just telling us what you feel that you need to add in it, and then we go into deliberation. So, Helen?
There's nothing further to add, Chair. Just obviously be aware of the options that are available to members today in determining this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. Tracy?
No, I have nothing more to add. It's all been covered. Just take into account Mr. and Mrs. Carroll. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Lawson?
No, I think we've talked about everything. I mean, like I say, the main thing was to sort of alleviate the neighbours' concerns. And I think I covered everything in the letter that I sort of circulated to them all. I mean, the main reason I've covered for the licence application was just to sort of take us away from the restrictions of being a club, coming out the CIU. And the only reason for the extended opening hours was just to try and sort of have an overall encompass of hours to cover any one-off events as well. But yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to add to that.
Okay, I've just thought of something which I should have thought of before. Would it help, Tracy Martin, if the club actually sent a letter out to the main objectors now if there was one of these events coming up?
I cannot speak for other people, but personally I'm at work all the time and I don't notice, so I cannot say personally. Okay,
I was just wondering whether that was one of the options we needed to consider. Okay, in that case, that's the end of the hearing. The three people who are going to hear it are Karen Little, Amanda Hopgood and myself. So can I thank everyone else for being involved? As far as I'm aware, there are no other items of interest to address in this hearing. So we'll go into deliberations now. And thank you everyone for attending. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye now.
Chair,